Welcome to the channel. Today, we're exploring some unbelievable story. Stay tuned and let's dive in. Growing up in a family that valued loyalty, I always believed in the importance of hard work and dedication. I took such beliefs into adulthood as the son of a manufacturing worker and a librarian. I saw personally the sacrifices my parents made for our family. They taught me that relationships, like the buildings my father built, needed a solid foundation and ongoing care. When I met Sarah, I assumed I'd found someone who shared similar values. We instantly fell in love, moved into a small home, and began a life together. That life evolved over time, first with our 2 boys, then with the company I put my heart and soul into. It wasn't always easy, but I never questioned the depth of our tie, at least until the fractures started to emerge. I learned from experience that financially supporting her was less stressful than the alternative. Because I had my own business, child support was guaranteed if she didn't work. While my boys were the most important aspect of my life, the impending financial load threatened to restrict the amount of time I could spend with them. To make things worse, she may take half of my company, leaving me with less than a third of my revenues. I left the attorney's office feeling dejected. As usual, Sarah was ahead of me, and when I came up, she added, "I've been doing this for 8 months and it hasn't affected us." "Maybe we've just been different," she said. "I'm not sure who I would select, but ponder before you act. Go to a lawyer. If we split up, it will be terrible, and I will make certain of that." I gazed at her, trying to figure out who she was. This was not the lady I had trusted for 14 years. At least I would no longer have to sneak around. "You'll still get most of my time," she added. "But I won't ignore Daniel. He'll figure out a schedule." I got up and left, and she followed me down the street but became quiet when she spotted Mrs. Carter. I smiled and agreed, and she shouted, "Get over here now." As I went away, 2 days later, I saw a pleased expression on her face. The kids, now 14 and 12, were overjoyed to see me, and we spent the evening together. Sarah handed me a drink after they went to bed, but I didn't want anything more from her. "I'm glad you came to your senses," she remarked. "We'll live like before, but it'll have dates sometimes. No one will know." I couldn't hold back any longer. "Here's what's happening. I'm staying until Ethan turns 18. Then I'm gone. Logan will be fine, and maybe he'll come live with me. Either way, I'm out." I paused, then continued, "I'm done with you. I won't sleep with you again. You've turned into someone else. I'm moving into a spare room, and I'm not talking about this again. I'll have my own life, and if I meet someone, so be it. But you need a job or gym. Better pay your way." The boys will get everything they need, but her expression became paler, then enraged. "You're a jerk," she said. "I still love you and want to be with you. This is crazy. Things won't change." "They already have," I answered. "Now go to bed." She responded, "If your mistress doesn't work out, you'll be popular at Reed and Oak. You might want to think about that later." I found her on the phone with her lover. I took the phone and said, "I have your number. He'll get your address and we'll talk about what we have in common. Don't worry about me hurting you, but you won't want to be in a relationship with her knowing she cheats." I hung up and pocketed the phone. Sarah did not say anything. When the kids stepped in and inquired what was wrong with the door, I just said, "Moisture. He'll fix it tomorrow." When the kids went, I prevented Sarah from going to bed. "I'm keeping your phone until tomorrow, and he'll be checking your account. Good night, I told you." She growled, "Good luck." I responded, knowing she had no clue I had set up a keyboard logger on her computer. Soon, I had all of her emails, search history, and purchases from the previous year. She was quite reckless. Her boyfriend worked for the county as a permit checker. They met when Sarah came to seek a permission to construct my workshop, which is essentially my man cave. When the estrogen levels at home were too high, I would go there to play pool or watch sports. She had to return a few times for follow-ups, which led to flirtation, coffee, and lunches. She sometimes led the way. I locked away all of the evidence, transferred the files to my office computer, and went to bed. I slept very well. In the morning, I prepared breakfast as the youngsters spoke about school and guys. They were infatuated with boy bands and I paid little attention. Fortunately, they were too little for anything severe. Ethan, now 14, was beginning to attract the attention of guys, so we allowed him to go on a stroll with friends while one of us supervised. We thought that this would assist him avoid making dumb decisions when he was old enough to date. Logan, or Maverick as we dubbed him, was too young for that, but we made sure he had enough of supervised social time via sports, dance, and theater. I dropped the first bombshell at breakfast. "Sorry, kids, but I have new responsibilities at work. Mom will be your main driver for now, since she's not working, she'll have the time." Sarah attempted to disagree, but the children immediately agreed with me. They didn't want to ride with their buddies, particularly after previous unpleasant encounters. Sarah didn't give up easy, but I knew there would be a pattern. Her lover's visits were generally during the day, after the kids had gone to school. "If you think this is over," I instructed Sarah, "you're wrong, and it's not a mistake I'm making." I continued, "I've wired the house for sound and video. Get your lover in here, and it'll be online within the hour." She was still chatting when I left. I viewed the video footage of her freaking out while looking for the concealed cameras. It was entertaining. I also overheard a few phone calls, including one with a partner. He seemed uncomfortable as she vented. "He's ruining everything. He cancelled all my cards and our bank balance is down to $1,200. The electric bill is due today. We may have to go to Plan B. Her sweetheart preferred to wait. If we leave now, we'll be broke, and everyone will know why. Let's take it slow. Live in nice houses and keep this secret a little longer." Sarah was not pleased about it. "So much for love," she said. Later, she attempted to make arrangements to see him at his home, but he declined, citing concerns about the house being wired. "I believe him," he said. "We can't risk it." When their chat concluded, she sat, perplexed. She had dreamed for the ideal existence, but reality was soon catching up. I checked on her later, and she was sitting at the computer, thinking I had locked her out. "Fool," she cried, using every epithet she could think of. I called her a tease. "Hi, honey," I responded with sarcastically. "You're having a great day, I see. Your computer's locked up tighter than Fort Knox and your phone's about to be disconnected. But don't worry, I ordered you a new one. It'll be here tomorrow." "You fool," she cried again, but I hung up before she could continue. I overheard the remainder of the facts thanks to the monitoring apparatus my tech-savvy buddy had put up. Sarah grinned when I handed her a new best-in-class phone while she was out with her beau that night. The following day, I overheard her anguish as she attempted to utilize it. The phone featured a safety option for children, which worked great for me. She could only contact the school, my office, our physicians, her mother, my parents, and the emergency line. Any effort to dial another number resulted in the call being disconnected for 30 seconds before restarting. She realized this when she attempted to phone her lover. "Hey," I said, addressing her. "Guess you figured out the phone only works with preset numbers. It's hard to reach your sweetheart without a phone or computer, isn't it? I'd apologize, but unlike you, I don't lie. Here's a suggestion," I said. "Get a job. You'll need one if you want to shop. It'll take care of the kids, but you're on your own for everything else. Maybe now you'll wear those clothes with the tags still on." I hung up before she could reply. When I arrived home, it was freezing. She strained to remain composed among the children, but after they were sleeping, we walked to the basement. She yelled and threatened me, but I just grinned. Then she changed tactics and began weeping. "Please stop being mean. I didn't do it on purpose. Has just a fling. I'll go back to loving you. It didn't hurt you before, and it won't now. It's only a few hours a week. The rest of the time, I'm all yours. Come to bed with me tonight, and let me prove I still love you." I laughed. "You know, I looked online for excuses for cheating. There's even a book called The Cheater's Handbook with advice on handling affairs. You've used a lot of the excuses in it. It just happened. It won't affect us. It's only an affair. And the best part, threatening to destroy his world if he doesn't agree." She was conflicted, but before she could react, I continued. "Let's say I agree to your plan. What do I get?" I still pay the bills and do all the work, but now I have to share you with someone else. As a businessman, that's not a good deal. You get to have fun with him and I just work and wait. That's not going to happen. Since you've declared an open marriage, he'll be looking too. There's a sales rep I've been talking to. She's into fitness and runs marathons. The next time she comes in, he'll invite her to lunch and explain we have an open marriage. I could see that the dig about her weight hurt. After 2 children, she was a bit softer than when we initially met, but that was her own. If she got off the sofa and went to the gym instead of shopping, things could be different. She seemed astonished. Why do you need someone else when I'm right here? I still love you. The thought of you being with someone else hurts me. I replied with deference, I've been free for 15 years, but that wasn't enough for you, was it? Do you think I was thrilled when I found out you were cheating? There's a name for guys who let their wives have fun with others while they stay faithful, just like there's a name for women who do the same. The Promiscuous Bite Express is officially derailed. Think about that. In going to bed. At least one of us has to work. She growled at me as I exited. I realized I needed a strategy before she could completely damage my life. I contacted an old buddy, our neighbor's kid, who was socially awkward but outstanding with computers. Had been producing games since he was 14 and had amassed a fortune by his 30s. He now resided with his wife in a multi-million-dollar house. She was beautiful, but hardly the brightest tool in the shed. I introduced them a few years back at one of my events. At the celebration, Nathan revealed his engagement to Julia, the daughter of one of my most important customers. Her beauty was undeniable, yet she lacked maturity. Nathan had always been a modest and quiet man, but after meeting her, he decided to propose. Their wedding date was arranged for April 14th at St. Peter's Cathedral in Ridgewood. He smiled proudly at her and held her hand in his as he made the news. Sarah didn't discuss the specifics straight immediately, but she did tell him what kind of ring she wanted, and the following day he handed her a credit card. She took it from there. They had been together for 8 years and their daughter, Julia, was 7. My guys loved her like a little sister. It wasn't uncommon for me to get home and discover Monica's SUV in the driveway, with the driver speaking with Sarah. She would constantly grin and smirk whenever she saw me. Monica, a former military lady, was fierce, gorgeous, and very competent. She had black belts in 3 martial arts and was an expert pistol shot. She used to work for me, but she was clearly bored. Julia stopped over one day to talk about a social event. I was at a meeting, so Monica kept me company. By the time I finished, Julia had taken one of my employees. Another victory for them. Monica ended up residing in a tiny apartment at their mansion, away from Nathan and Julia's main home, but when a hijacker attempted to kidnap one of their children, Monica shot him in the head after just a few minutes. The case was concealed, but the guy was armed and dangerous. Monica was let go and she became Julia's bodyguard. My boys sometimes joined them on their vacations, but Sarah always found a reason to keep us at home. I knew Nathan was astonished by the change of events, but Julia was not. She appeared preoccupied every time I saw her, and at our last party, I found her in the garden getting too near to another visitor. When she noticed me, she instantly pushed away. I wasn't sure whether they had kissed, so I didn't approach her about it. We broke up at gatherings like these to socialize, and I noted her absence and assumed she was somewhere else. But when she came back, she stayed with me all night. Later, Nathan and I spoke about the incident. "What exactly do you want, Jack?" he inquired. "I want my kids in my life above all, and I want her to regret what she did. It's over between us, but she doesn't realize it yet. When she does, I want to make sure I'm financially secure," I told her. Nathan inquired about the residence. "We bought it at a steep discount, around 58% of its market value, due to its elderly owner's neglect. We've invested a lot in restoring it, and now it's worth twice what we spent. Sarah would battle for it after her divorce. Sarah proposed I convert the basement into an apartment with separate electricity and a driveway, allowing me to live my own life while still seeing the kids. She expected it to be an easy sell in court since the children would be involved. Monica offered another possibility. "I can handle this. It'll make their lives miserable for you." "No problem. I didn't want to go down that route, however. Let's stick to plan C, I said. Monica wasn't delighted, but she consented. Before departing, she cautioned, "She's got a thing for you now, Jack. Watch out when you're single." I was startled. I always loved Monica, but I had no idea she had emotions for me. The home was in my name, which worked well since I was the principal income. After speaking with contractors and a lawyer, I decided to rebuild my basement. I also set up an allowance for Sarah, enough to enable her to go out but not to spend beyond her means. I brought her Mercedes in for servicing and added a GPS system with remote shutdown capability. I observed Sarah's lunch breaks were becoming longer. She'd go out with pals and then slip away to her lover's place for a few hours. One day, I tracked her GPS and shut off her vehicle as she approached his location. She phoned in a panic, stating her vehicle wouldn't start. I inquired where she was and she said she was across town. She stated she was visiting a friend to get her purse after their shopping expedition. I let her sweat for a minute before telling her to try starting the vehicle again. She drove for a few streets before it stuck again. When she eventually arrived home, she understood what had happened. Later, I videotaped a shouting battle between her and our son Ethan, during which Sarah booted him out of the room. The sight of our kid upset her, but it was too late. When she inquired about the basement, I told her I was preparing it for the kids. She misinterpreted this to suggest that I approved of her affair. Sarah purchased a new phone, which I used to monitor her. It came out she and her partner were preparing to leave their wives and move into my home, with me covering the majority of the expenses. My actions had disrupted their plans. Sarah wanted to call it off, afraid I'd do something dramatic. Her partner ignored it, but she was concerned about the consequences, particularly since he worked for the county. She suggested that I take a month to mull things over while she worked on repairs with her spouse. I planned to utilize that month to complete my plans. I scheduled a meeting with Henry, the county commission chairman, to consider transferring my company. I informed him that Maplewood County offered higher incentives, which frightened him. He did not want to lose 89 jobs in his area, particularly during an election year. I informed him I was experiencing issues with zoning and permits and wanted his assistance. Then I dropped the bombshell. "Your zoning manager is sleeping with my wife," I remarked, and I knew Henry was disappointed, knowing the scandal would be a disaster. I had footage and audio of his interactions with Sarah. I told him exactly what I wanted: his departure and my renovation ideas approved without interruption. Henry promised to check into it, and I told him I'd wait until after the election before taking any more action. Our relationship was irreversibly altered from now on. He feared when I requested to visit him. The lecture took place and I delegated responsibility for documentation to the contractor. Construction began the following day. Sarah seems unconcerned, possibly distracted with other issues. She attempted to make amends by telling me she was bored, ugly, and lonely as the kids grew older. She apologized, stating she had just made a mistake with someone who took advantage of her fragility. I replied, "What happens when the kids leave for college and you're bored again? You could have found purpose, volunteered, joined a book club, or worked. Instead, you chose to cheat. How's that working out?" I assured her I would not touch her. Our marriage was for life. Support will surely fail. She raced out of the room, weeping. Sarah continued to behave like the ideal wife and mother in the coming weeks. We even went on a family excursion to the beach, but things turned worse after we went to bed. I reserved a room with separate beds, making it plain that we would not share. She hinted at divorce, and when I presented her the separation papers, I knew I was in for a showdown. I got the kids up from school early and drove them to the park. They suspected something was amiss but didn't know who was to blame. I politely informed them that I was moving out. They sobbed and begged me to remain. I told them that I was not moving far and showed them the new apartment I had put up in the basement. It was not as good as their quarters, but it would always be available to them. They were eager to adorn it. When we came home, Sarah was furious and yelled at me. The neighbors contacted the police. I remained outside, handing the officer the separation papers and explaining the circumstances. I suggested infidelity without going into detail. Sarah reacted angrily, but I remained calm. The officer sensibly advised her to wait outside while I showed him the flat. We opened the door to the kids' room and found them screaming on the bed. I consoled them, telling them that their mother was simply angry and would settle down. The police nodded and assured the youngsters that their mother was feeling better. Afterward, the officer informed me I did the right thing for the kids and reminded me to always prioritize them first. When we returned, Sarah had calmed down and said that her outburst was due to how much she loved me. The officer stressed the necessity of prioritizing the children's well-being and wished us both success. Sarah nodded at the police as he walked away, then turned to me and shouted, "Living room now." She went inside, and I seized the opportunity to lock myself in the home, installing deadbolts and latches on both doors. The new lower door was soundproof, so her cries couldn't reach me. The children remained with me until nightfall, and I convinced them that their mother was okay before they returned. I contacted Sarah and told her, "How you treat the kids now may affect your relationship with them later. Think about it." I hung up, and the night went well. Sarah hired an attorney, and we met in court. The judge, a fatigued lady in her 40s, inquired about why I filed for divorce. I said that Sarah had been having an affair for 9 months and refused to terminate it once I discovered out. I also said that I could not expose our children to this lifestyle. I have video and audio evidence, all lawfully acquired, to back up my assertions. The judge looked at Sarah, who hung her head. "You're going to need to make some decisions, Mrs. Carter," she told me. "If you want to salvage your marriage, consider your behaviors. For the time being, this is just a trial separation. You have 90 days to decide whether to reconcile or file for divorce." After the hearing, Sarah and I spoke briefly in the parking lot. She said that she felt grief, not rage. "I always thought we'd part holding hands," she said, "but now I know that won't happen." For the following 3 weeks, we lived separately, her upstairs and me below. Sarah was furious because the kids wouldn't allow her inside my flat. One day, I knocked on her door and requested her to accompany me. The children prepared supper, and we all ate together. Sarah praised their meal and assisted with the cleaning. I showed her the flat, and the kids adapted by inviting friends over on weekends. I added a pool, making our home even more popular. Some parents spotted our position but did not remark, but a few indicated curiosity, which irritated Sarah. Sarah approached me aggressively the night after a party. "What were you thinking? That lady crawled upon your lap," she yelled. I said calmly, "How humiliating would it be if your husband was having an affair and everyone knew about it? I believe that is worse." Sarah was taken aback, but I liked seeing her squirm. I avoided communication with her subsequently, but I kept an eye on her phone and everyday activities. She seemed to have 2 partners but was left alone for many months. It was sad, but also somewhat hilarious. Sarah wailed in her sleep when she was released, unknowing that I had wiretapped her phone. When a telemarketer phoned, she attempted to solve it, believing it was a sign that things were getting better between us, not understanding it was the end of our marriage. The election was ended and the new county manager vowed to tidy up the budget. Richard was discreetly let go when the commissioner watched the footage I provided. It showed him explaining what he intended to do to Sarah the next time they met. They sacked him without a recommendation, informing him that he'd never work in local government again and may face legal action. Sarah phoned, torn between fury and remorse. "Did you have to do that?" she asked. I said, "He should have considered this before sleeping with you, and his wife will be okay. She landed a nice job." Richard's wife, a lovely lady, was crushed. I gave her a job and said, "It's not your fault he misled you, but I feel guilty. If you wish to leave, I can assist. If you wish to remain, I'll pray for you." She thanked me, still stunned. 3 days later, she phoned. Richard had not informed her that he had been sacked. When she challenged him, he almost struck her, but she threatened to call the authorities, so he fled. She had cleaned their accounts, but I made certain his children had all they needed. She inquired if the employment offer was still open. It was, and she began working for me the next week. She soon adapted, working half in the office and half from home, which was beneficial for her children. My employees noticed the changes. Most others showed sorrow, but Misty, who despised Sarah, made a disturbance at the office party. Afterward, I chastised Sarah for her actions, particularly because she had begun her romance with Richard about that time. Sarah apologized and Misty accepted. Later, Misty informed me, "You are too wonderful for her." She was usually harsh to ladies when you weren't there. She implied that if necessary, she'd protect Sarah, referring to her previous position as a casino dealer. Misty was a confident, fashionable redhead, 12 years younger than me, and in a committed relationship with a nice man. I agreed to escort her down the aisle and pay for her honeymoon, even knowing she wasn't interested in me. When we were alone, I joked with her about whether her carpeting matched the drapes. She chuckled and taunted me about preferring smooth flooring. We both laughed, which improved my mood for the remainder of the day. The other ladies at work observed my change in attitude, and they must have heard the joke since every time I was down, one of them would attempt to cheer me up. When our 58-year-old secretary joked about Harry's carpets, I understood things had gotten out of hand. Meanwhile, Sarah was suffering, feeling alone without a partner, marriage, or meaningful relationship other than lunch with friends. After I almost wrecked her best friend's marriage by disclosing her infidelity, neither of them would speak with Sarah. A month later, Sarah knocked on my door, pleading for a chat. I invited her in and gave her a beverage, which she inquired about. I told her it was a unique imported variety. She questioned whether I had become aggressive. I joked about it, saying I valued quality over quantity, and added that the kids drank soda and fruit juice. Sarah revealed that she had been drinking more wine recently to deal with her loneliness, but she was trying to cut down. I asked her why she felt lonely and suggested she go outside and scratch an itch. She appeared astonished and inquired if it disturbed me. I told her it didn't since we were officially separated and that I had done the same while we were still together. She revealed that she hadn't seen Richard in a while and that their relationship had ended. I reminded her of how much she earned when she threatened to take everything from me if I didn't allow her to continue the affair. She began crying, but I told her to stop. She then told me exactly what she wanted me back. She missed our family, the closeness and comfort. She pleaded for a new start. I let her weep on my shoulder before leaving, and she asked for a hug, which I gave her. Later, Ethan and Logan came downstairs to discuss dinner possibilities. They eventually settled on a Creole meal, and I offered they welcome Sarah if she wanted to participate. After a little fight, they went out to eat and returned with a movie to watch in the man cave. After supper, I enjoyed my black and blue salad with blackened steak and blue cheese, while the kids tried everything, even my plate. Logan eventually gained the nerve to taste alligator bites, which turned out to be rather tasty. We then settled on the leather sofa, the kids between us, as we had done in the past. They chose a book, and I couldn't stop giggling until Logan asked me to be quiet so they could enjoy it. Neither of them saw the conclusion. They both fell asleep and cuddled close to us. I looked over and saw Sarah silently weeping, trying not to wake Ethan. We kissed them goodnight and sent them home, telling them I'd be there for a while. Everyone, including Sarah, kissed me goodnight as they went. I sat on the sofa, wondering whether I'd ever trust Sarah again. What if she turned on me again? Would I be able to deal with another betrayal? Sleep quickly took control, and by the morning, I was still laying there. I took a shower while the kids completed their movie. Sarah was making an effort. She prepared my favorite meals and did not complain when I declined some of her offers. Our connection with the children was strengthening, particularly once school began and she brought them shopping. I gave Ethan one of my cards and Sarah used it regularly, but not excessively. She was learning to keep to the budget I had established. One day, Sarah requested a favor. "I've been thinking," she said. "I want to work or volunteer. If I do, would you babysit the kids?" I embraced her, pleased with her choice. She'd also started going to the gym and was regaining her former fitness. I encouraged her growth and even provided her additional money for exercise equipment and clothing. Sarah began volunteering for a prominent charity, assisting with activities such as fun runs and galas. For the first several months, these were largely on weekends and I sometimes accompanied her. As the temperature cooled, most activities shifted inside and grew increasingly common at night. I continued to attend some, but juggling work and these activities became exhausting, so I reduced my attendance to 1 out of 3. Sarah was irritated, so I replied, "How would you feel if I dragged you to work on no sleep?" The second morning, she showed us images from the events and I didn't think much of them. I trusted her now and the cameras remained in place, though I hadn't examined them in weeks. We were gradually regaining our confidence and I felt she really apologized. Then Diana contacted and offered us to spend the weekend. Sarah had a 2-day event, so we kissed her farewell and wish her luck. She denied an offer to stay with us, stating that she would be too fatigued to travel the further 35 miles. When we arrived, Nathan welcomed us and called me an idiot when it comes to ladies. He informed me Monica was furious because I didn't act on the indications she provided when Sarah's situation went awry. He also didn't understand why I hadn't just let Sarah go. I said that I remained with her for the children because I did not want to cause a controversy if I had full custody. Nathan inquired about Sarah and I informed him that things were much better. She became more active with the children, volunteered, and organized her money. I hadn't moved back in with her yet, but I was hopeful for the future. Diana later drew me aside to discuss. She highlighted how much they donated to charity, particularly for tax purposes, and how Sarah had contacted them multiple times about her new employment. Diana then told me about a black tie charity event they had attended when they saw Sarah backstage arranging. As the night came to a close, Diana gave me a photo of Sarah in a dress I had never seen before, standing next to Samuel Brooks. Diana explained Hes affluent and attends these gatherings to meet ladies. Hes very excellent at it. He even tried his techniques on me a few times, but I wasn't interested. I got a horrible feeling about where this was headed. I took advantage of the circumstance, showed Nathan the image, and we blended in with the throng of 500. The majority of individuals were dressed in tuxedos and gowns and we took a few more shots, some of which were rather improper. "That's why we wanted you here," Nathan said. "We didn't want you making the same mistake again." Unlike most people, who would remain quiet and express compassion afterward, they were genuine friends, speaking out to give me time to reflect. I nodded, immersed in thinking. The first betrayal was painful, but this one, after everything, cut deep. My marriage was finished. I thanked Nathan and Diana before retiring to bed, despite the fact that I expected to be up all night. But as soon as my head touched the pillow, I dropped out. By 6 a.m., I was up and considering my next step. The divorce was officially back on. I'd contact the lawyer on Monday and decide out what to tell Sarah and the kids. I'd remain in the basement until Ethan graduated. I wondered whether Logan would move in with me. If Sarah had any sense, she would accept for the sake of the children, but she does not. Time will tell. We spent the following 2 days spending time with the kids while also participating in the activities. Diana had decided she wanted horses, so they erected a stable with 6 horses renowned for their kind temperament. Nathan found out he was allergic, so Diana, the kids, Monica, and I rode around the neighborhood for lunch. Diana had organized a picnic by their pond, which may have been a tiny lake. Nathan greeted us with fishing rods and I fished for a bit before returning. We practiced catch and release and enjoyed the battle the bass showed us while fishing. We discussed business. I owed Nathan and Diana my company. It all began when Diana noted her dry skin and I, a civil engineer, had the idea to design a unique shower wall with pulsing nozzles that cleansed, massaged, and applied moisturizer. It turned out to be both functional and delightful. Women who tried it raved about it, and Diana recommended it to her friends. Eventually, they asked me to construct more, and Nathan gave me a loan to establish a company. I leased a workshop and employed 2 people. We created customized shower walls and news traveled rapidly. High-profile customers, including actresses and past first ladies, made purchases. Within 2 years, we moved into luxury hotels and major sports teams, installing bigger locker rooms. Nathan and Diana assisted me in obtaining foreign patents, and we even sued rivals in France and Portugal, acquiring their assets. When it was time for my divorce, Nathan protected the firm from Sarah's influence. I wasn't furious enough to destroy her, but I wasn't about to reward her either. I sold the firm to Nathan at a profit and stayed on as a manager with a good pay. Everything was clear, and life continued on. During the divorce, I gave Sarah 58% of our assets in return for waiving alimony and child support. I estimated the expenditures using my new pay and put aside the funds in an escrow account for the children's needs. I handed her a home worth $800,000 once the kids were 18, with all utility costs covered till then, unless she remarries. My lawyer felt I was being too generous, but when I told him I was thinking about the kids, not Sarah, he dropped it. Sarah eventually received the home and $2.6 million, which was a difficult bargain to turn down. I saw via security cameras as she examined the documents on the dining room table. The first was the divorce petition, and the second was a photo of her with her new partner. I left her a letter. I was prepared to forgive you, Sarah. I assumed you'd learnt your lesson, but I was mistaken. I'm providing you a great bargain, and you'll come out ahead. Simply sign the documents and we'll proceed. There is no need to battle for custody, instead, share it until the children reach adulthood. He'll remain in the apartment until Ethan is 18, then Logan may choose where to reside. Take the paperwork to your lawyer and don't make things more difficult than they need to be. You won't gain from dragging this out. Good luck in your future partnerships. Please don't use me as a reference. I also emailed her the identical images I had provided my lawyer and his wife. Be careful. This is an attachment alienation state, and a good lawyer can take most of your settlement. Let's hope she's not too harsh. Sarah begged, pleaded, and begged again, but it was ineffective. Please, Sarah. Do not read me excuses from the cheater's manual. You wanted another guy and got him. I am not your backup plan. It is over. Let us not make things difficult for the children. Just sign the paperwork. When the kids become older, we won't see each other very much. She sobbed and then became furious. Her lawyer, a fierce negotiator, told me to accept the terms and go on. You have the evidence, and Sarah has been unfaithful twice. It is not a no-fault state, and if you bring charges for adultery, she will get far less. Sarah filed a countersuit for mental cruelty, saying I had relationships with Monica and Richard's ex-wife, Laura. Laura threatened a slander action, and Monica appeared at Sarah's home, urging her to stop. It won't be me, which, Monica said. I have some powerful friends who can make your life miserable. You could disappear. Think with your head, not your ego. Sarah, clearly scared, backed down. A few weeks later, I was astonished to see a lady I did not know at work. She said it was about my divorce. After I began taping, I invited her in. I'm Patricia Brooks, she said. I believe you know my husband, Samuel Brooks, the one who's been having an affair with Sarah. I shook her hand. I apologize for what has occurred, Mrs. Clark. It is not my fault, and I am certain it is not yours either. Barbara sought for assistance. I hear you have images and documentation that might help with my divorce. Could you please share these with me? Give me your lawyer's name and I will send them over. She claimed that her husband had depleted their bank accounts, leaving her with just enough money for a home and clothing for their kid. She was not working, and her future was dubious. Once again, I had to clean up Sarah's mess. I phoned my lawyer, John, and scheduled a meeting for Barbara. John, I have another customer for you, Sarah's husband's wife. Give me a time, and I will send her over. And, by the way, I am paying, so give me a discount. Sure thing, Jack, John said. Send her number. Text her when you're free. I looked to Barbara, who seemed stunned. Don't worry, he's excellent at his job, and I can afford it. This is the least I can do for you. If you need anything further, please inquire. She tried not to weep, but couldn't stop it. I offered her tissues and let her to weep for a bit. Laura was at her house, and I assumed she would understand Barbara's distress. When I phoned Laura, she arrived into my office. I introduced them. You both have something in common. My wife has been with both your husbands. He'll be gone for a time, I remarked, leaving them alone for 15 minutes. When I returned, both ladies had me sit on the sofa and kissed me. I didn't anticipate that. Barbara spoke first. I told Laura that you are a great person. And when my divorce is official, he'll come for you. I was taken aback. You're my hero now, focus, she said. Barbara needs a job. She has a degree in international business relations and speaks French, Italian, and German, an excellent match for the marketing post you indicated. Laura smiled. You may reward me with a large bonus on my next payday. And remember, I'm your chief accountant, so don't even think of underbidding her. Sarah was outraged when she discovered out. Is this vengeance? You're treating me like garbage while assisting these ladies. I held out my hand. I've reached my limit with you, Sarah. She snapped. What's your problem? I said harshly, Sarah, stop up. Are you listening? If you don't, the transaction is off. I will make you struggle for every dime. Do you honestly believe that if I marry you, I would end up supporting the women you have destroyed? This is on you and I'm finished. Do not speak to me again. If you do, contact my lawyer. The kids will notify me if they need anything. She wept again, but I remained strong. The divorce is occurring. Before the ink dries, it'll go on. The children need a decent role model, not you. Go wreck someone else's marriage. When you're finished, send the ruined ladies to me, and I'll attempt to repair them. Perhaps they might form a support group. I have lots of experience. Goodbye, Sarah. I said my goodbyes and walked out without locking the door. The children detested the circumstance. I attempted to keep them hidden, but they ultimately found out. They hadn't seen Sarah in 3 weeks until I persuaded them to spend the weekend away. She is still your mother. She loves you. I'm sure not seeing you hurts her. It'll be difficult, but do it for the family. Logan sighed, appearing older than his age of 12. We will go, but you are mistaken, Papa. She deceived us. We will never have the same family again. He embraced me passionately and walked away. Love you, Daddy. When did children become so smart and world-weary? I think we may all benefit from treatment. Sarah gave up after 12 months and $600,000 in expenses. She requested an hour before signing the documents. So I phoned her. What could you say to make a difference? I asked. If you're sorry, I'll accept your apology. Otherwise, sign the paperwork. I'm finished with the drama. Logan was now 12.5 years old, and he was developing into a stunning young man. Ethan, nearly 15, resembled a model. The pool and man cave parties continued, but Sarah never arrived. I continued to pay for the home until Logan left for college. I changed the divorce terms. The home would be sold and the money shared. Sarah could still afford to live comfortably if she handled her money properly. Laura came for me before the ink on the divorce papers had dried. I attempted to gently put her off. I'd love to, Laura, I said, but you work for me. If we don't work out, things could get awkward. I'll quit, she said without hesitation. I raised an eyebrow. You'll send your resignation email in about 5 seconds. I said, I'll laugh, but she wasn't deterred. You love your job, said I, and no one will pay you as well as I do. Laura grinned. I could marry a banker. I said, you could, but it could take a long. If it occurs at all. She giggled and pleaded, please stop. She said that she was heading to France the following day. Perhaps you will meet a Frenchman there. There is a Pierre Jean-Claude out there seeking for you. Laura met a new guy, a fellow accountant, and they are still keeping track of his performance, how many minutes he lasts and how many peaks he can produce. So far, all is adding up. Barbara took my offer seriously, met a Frenchman, and relocated to Nice to manage the European division. C'est la vie. I struggled through for approximately 9 months, dating a few ladies I met via friends and activities, but nothing connected save for physical pleasure. Nathan and Diana cared after me, and I tried to spend time with the kids whenever possible. Monica departed, explaining that she loved them but wanted to go on. It was rather disappointing, but the kids smirked. Sarah got engaged 14 months after her divorce to a man she met via her charitable work. After her affair was revealed, the charity advised she be better valuable elsewhere, and she followed the advice. I met the new man several times. He appeared good, and he was unmarried when they met. I wasn't sure how accurate Sarah had been about her history, but that wasn't my concern. The kids liked him, and he wasn't attempting to play father. He sometimes brought kids to the movies while their mother worked, and I was relieved to see how well they were coping. Then one day, the children returned home angry. Josh broke off the engagement. Why? I asked. Really, Dad, Ethan answered. This is Mom. So, what do you believe happened? I'd become used to it and was no longer repulsed by Sarah. We could be courteous, but I did not encourage her. I had pulled down all of the surveillance equipment. It was no longer my business, but when Josh arrived, I nearly turned it back on. I wondered whether she continued to make those same looks and sounds when she got near to him. Fortunately, I did not give in. 16 months after the divorce, I returned home to discover Monica seated on my sofa. She had dropped by to visit the children. Ethan, now 15, had just received his first car, a four-wheel drive Jeep. He chose it himself, a safer option than most adolescent lads like. I consented, despite my suspicions about Monica's influence. Monica used to own an automobile similar to this one. Logan rushed up to me, joy written all over his face. Hey, Daddy. Guess what? Monica wants to take us camping. Can we go? I was startled. Logan, the youngster who refused to get filthy, wanted to go camping. Monica smirked at me, sensing my confusion. Are you seriously going camping? I teased. I haven't seen you in almost 2 years and this is how you come back, hijack my kids and abandon me. Monica laughed. You may also come. You'll probably need assistance managing the 9 ladies I'm taking, Logan, Ethan, Sophie, and a handful of their friends, ranging in age from 10 to 15. It might be beyond me. I shook my head and smiled. You can do it. You've always liked operating a military camp, so I'll assist carry supplies and cook. I ordered pizza as they looked at pricey camping gear online. I had a hunch this journey would cost me. Monica went in every few days to ensure the kids had everything they needed, including training them how to put up tents blindfolded. Sophie accompanied her often, already showing indications of being as smart as her parents and like her mother. I hadn't communicated with Sarah in months. She had been seeing other guys and would send the kids to my house when she went on dates. I wasn't delighted, but the kids seemed okay with it. Sarah phoned one day and asked to speak about the children. I knew it wasn't going to be good. She came over and went right to the point. Don't turn my children against me. I am sick of hearing about Monica. She is capable of doing this. She is capable of doing that. I struggled to suppress my rage, but I gradually found my voice. And this is coming from a lady who has had a slew of romantic partners in recent months. Do you believe they are too dumb to notice? Hypocrite. I stopped before saying, you need to take care of yourself, Sarah. Get back to the gym and do something with your hair, if only for the kids. Is there anything else? I asked. She gave me a sneer and went. Monica drove up as I was walking away. When the children spotted her, they raced out and cheered. It was hilarious to see Sarah's face get crimson. Why did you do that? She asked. I grinned. I've always wanted to, and believe me, it was better than I imagined. Honestly, it felt amazing to surprise her. While the children set the table with salads, I cooked the steaks and baked potatoes. After supper, the kids hurried inside, leaving me to clean up. I double-checked Monica's checklist. How can something so difficult be enjoyable? Monica placed Sophie and her companions onto her four-wheeler. Ethan did the same thing with his pals. Logan's crew took their own. It was overcrowded. I was driving a support vehicle laden with stuff. Monica said that it would take 4 hours to get there, but it was worth it. We were extremely secluded, with the bathhouse located 30 minutes away. If someone wanted to go sooner, they would have to resemble a bear. Monica took over, and 4 tents arose quickly. I was instructed to keep the food in bear-proof containers, which did not exactly comfort me. Monica secured the coolers in the cars and sprayed bear repellent around the tents and vehicles. Then I put together the barbecue. By midday, everything was ready and the children were grinning as they put on their swimsuits. I went back to the marina, collected the keys to a massive pontoon boat, and attended an hour-long briefing. It was built to accommodate 18 people, so 9 girls and 2 adults would not be an issue. The following morning, Monica took over breakfast, allowing me to cut veggies for an omelette. She cooked delicious pancakes with buckwheat flour and juicy blueberries. After breakfast, we all helped clean up while Monica took the kids fishing. The lake was full with little bream, so everyone caught something. We shot photographs as the kids joked about shopping for gear. After lounging about, we returned to the marina for lunch. The kids donned shoes over their swimwear, assuming we were going to a restaurant. Oddly, the restaurant featured Italian cuisine, and we enjoyed spaghetti, ravioli, and meatballs. We then viewed the boats at the pier. The kids thrilled when they discovered the enormous boat was for them, but moaned when Monica had them wear life jackets. "We have a student driver," Monica laughed. "Better safe than sorry." We moved slowly, and I heard Monica laughing on deck. The kids were at ease, and we moored in a cove with a small beach. The boat included a sliding board, and the children took turns flying into the sea. One of the girls, Victoria, could not swim, but Monica made sure she had a life jacket and brought her into the water. Everyone cooked sausages and marshmallows on the beach as Monica spoke softly to Victoria. After a time, I kissed Monica's cheek. "You're going to be an amazing mom, I told you." Tears welled in her eyes, and she swam away to the bay. I helped the youngsters clean up and ensured that the fire was out. We carefully swam back to the pier, and Monica said, "Did I upset you?" I told her she hadn't, and that her comment surprised me. Monica and I reclined on camp chairs, cuddling after a small meal prepared by the kids. She informed me about her new position as the co-owner of a security agency. I informed her that I had sold my firm, which astonished her. "It didn't bother me," I said. "I got into it to help a friend, Nathan. While I respected their dedication, it was not my passion. I only wanted to have enough money to support my family and, eventually, my children." Monica gripped my hand. "I know you don't show it, but Sarah has harmed you. I have been there, too. My ex-husband abandoned me for a pregnant lady. My alleged buddy waited till I got home, but it still stung." Monica had never revealed her background, which astonished me and made me feel sad. Sarah had taught me how to deal with suffering, so I knew where Monica was coming from. We rested in our recliners until supper was ready. Delighted my kids know how to utilize the barbecue. The majority of the others were bewildered. Monica and I washed the dishes after supper while the kids sang in front of the fire. It was quiet, with no one around to admire their ability. The kids insisted on getting a pontoon for our joint birthdays, and I didn't object. That night, as I slept in my tent, I realized I was happier than I had been in a long time. I smiled as I fell asleep. The following morning, we packed up, making careful to leave the campsite neater than we found it. Monica and I held hands silently while driving home. About an hour from home, she eventually broke the silence. "I've been thinking about this for years," she said, her tone serious. "Here's the deal: you'll marry me, have more children, and live your life with me. If you don't want that, you'll go and you won't see me again. Oh, and by the way, I do adore you. How are you feeling about that?" I hesitated for a bit, pretending to think about it. "Let me think about it," I joked. Monica gave me a sharp look. "Okay, I thought about it. Tomorrow, we'll choose a ring, and you'll start house looking. I'm not beginning my marriage in my ex's basement." "Oh, would you marry me?" She waited, but suddenly tears began to fall. The smug look reappeared as she swiftly texted Jessica, who was driving a vehicle behind us. Jessica pulled over in disbelief as Monica got out and hugged me. I noticed Jessica's message flash on Monica's phone: "Operation accomplished. Excellent work, soldiers." "Oops, you weren't supposed to see that," Jessica said, blushing and embracing me again. I sighed and closed my computer, recognizing that today was my 60th birthday and my final day at work. It was time for me to retire after making considerable money. Logan was working with Nathan, understanding the company in preparation for his future role as CEO. Ethan, an engineer specialized in bridge building, had met a life partner and adopted 2 little girls, my only grandkids. Logan was still married to his job, although he appeared close to an engineer he met via his sister. Monica just strolled in with our twin girls, who were about to graduate from high school and attend separate institutions. Monica had been correct: our children were lovely, and they were beginning to follow their own paths. Monica quit on our wedding day to manage her firm, and she later sold her stake when she discovered she was pregnant. My firm had developed with Nathan's empire, and their ideas often altered business strategy. Monica stopped at our wedding picture, where she and Diana stood with 9 bridesmaids dressed in floor-length skirts and combat boots, carrying a placard that said, "Operation Successful." We were on our way home to the lake, where we had spent many vacations. 2 pontoons and a speedboat stood at the pier, and the men from our trip often stopped over to chat about Operation Lake. Privacy was a scarce commodity, but we were used to it. Sarah, on the other hand, received the home and was dissatisfied, but she quickly recognized that her objections were futile. Monica purchased a $500,000 property with a pool and hot tub only a block away, which irritated her greatly. It was written about in publications. The first year of custody was simple since the children lived nearby, but they chose to remain with us, particularly once their sisters were born. Sarah married twice more, both of which ended horribly. Her first marriage terminated due to adultery, and the second failed after a few years. Laura and Barbara even contacted her second wife and gave her a job. We still see Sarah on occasion. She's calmer today, but still harbors past resentments. Time has not been kind to her, and her behaviors remain unchanged. She still chooses the shopping over the gym. "Hurry up, Dad," one of the kids phoned. "If we leave now, we'll have time to swim at the lake." I smiled, grabbed my box, and went out with my family, eager to begin the new chapter of my life. Thanks for watching. What would you do if you were in their shoes? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.